show, we have artist and mom Carolyn Mackin Watson, joining us with her beautiful artworks. We have some on the table and one behind us. And I'm gonna start by asking Carolyn where she went to school.
I went to school at Syracuse University. As an undergrad, I got my Bachelor in Fine Art. And then a few years later, I went back and got my Master's in Fine Art at the California College of Arts and Crafts in San Francisco.
Oh, exciting. Did you grow up around the Massachusetts area?
I did, yeah, I did. I grew up in Waltham, not too far from here. And then my parents divorced and we moved out to the Worcester area to Shrewsbury.
Oh, nice. So what brought you over to Wellesley to settle in and settle down?
Well, I had lived out in San Francisco for 11 years, and I met my husband there and had my first son, Jace, out there. And but I also always felt that I would come back here. I have a large family, and I really wanted to be close to them again, especially I think once I had Jace. So. And my husband also, although I met him on the West Coast, is also an East Coast guy. He's from upstate New York, so it just made sense for us to be back here and closer to family. So when we came back, we wanted a nice town that was sort of central to our families, and we just found the right house here in Wellesley.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So are you part of a group in Wellesley, an artist group?
I am. I'm part of a group called the Wellesley Women Artisans. We just started up about a year ago in the summer of 2011, and it's been an amazing group for me. There are about 15 members right now, and we're growing and including more and more people as we get out there and get the word out. But it's been an amazing support group for me.
And are they all painters in the group, or do they do different?
No, it's all very diverse actually. We have one woman who actually makes what she calls softies. They're toys, but like stuffed animals. And then we have others that are painters, illustrators, graphic designers, 3D sculpture artists, so there's a wide variety.
It's a mix. It's a mix of people. So like you said, some of them have their careers in art,
yes.
And others are. Would you have a group that's a large number of women there who are moms who've come into being artists, like after being moms, or are there men in the group?
There are not. We are open to including men in the group. It just hasn't happened. Yeah. The group's just sort of formed organically, and so it hasn't happened yet, but we are open to it, although I think we'll have to do a name change when we do that. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. And do you have a website for the group?
We do. We actually have a Facebook page under Wellesley Women Artisans.
Oh, interesting. And then you have a site as well. You have a website and a blog.
I do. So for my artwork, I use my maiden name, which is Mackin. So my website is carolynmackin.com, and my blog is carolynmackin.wordpress.com.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So do you find, I don't know how the other women in the group feel, but do you find that you draw inspiration out of their work? And do you ever hear them saying that they get inspiration out of you?
Definitely. I think that all of us agree that each month that we meet, like that next day is so super productive because I think you're just filled with energy. It's a really supportive group. And by supportive, I don't just mean like, oh, like we pat each other on the back and say you're so great, but I think that there's some really great constructive criticism, some really great ideas, both business-wise and also creatively, how to help compel the work forward. And so, you know, we come to each meeting, we show work, we seek advice, and so I am constantly inspired by how these women are able to balance and fit it into their lives, because we all have such busy schedules. We're all mothers, and anybody who's a parent knows how exhausting and all-consuming that can be. And I have to admit, when I first joined the group, I really wasn't creating on a daily basis, and I missed it. Like it's just something in me. I've always known that I wanted to be an artist. I just feel like compelled to create for whatever reason. And I was really feeling like I was spending a lot of time raising my children and giving to them, but like at the end of every day I was so tired, I'd end up in front of the TV exhausted, and these women sort of showed me like, no, take that time for yourself, like even if it's an hour every day. I mean, the same thing like with working out or anything else that you feel that's important to fit into your life, you just have to carve out that time. And interestingly enough, I found that if I dedicated like an hour after I put the kids to bed, and many times it would turn into 2 or 3 hours, that I'd actually get more energy when I went up to my studio, or when I do go up to my studio and I put on some good music and I start painting, then it gives me so much more energy, and I feel so much better when I do finally go to bed, that it's like that I've had a great day, as opposed to just spending those last few hours in front of the TV.
That you got
Definitely. I don't know. I always feel like I need to have a productive day, and that's probably just an American thing. But
which brings me to my next question that I wanted to ask you. When did you first know that you wanted to be an artist?
I don't know that there was a moment or a time. It was just a process, and I think like going back to just that feeling compelled to create. I mean, my mom will tell stories about, I think for my 3rd birthday, I spent like 2 weeks before the birthday decorating every single, she just bought like brown bags, and I decorated every goodie bag. I had to decorate the tape. She had a paper tablecloth. I colored the entire paper tablecloth. I like did all the decorations for the entire party before I was 3 years old. You know, I just wanted to do that. And I think I give a lot of credit to my parents, because when I told them that I wanted to be an art major in college, like they didn't try to talk me out of it. They were really supportive, and so I think that they just knew that that was my passion in life, and they allowed me to do that. So
you did you try many things in school? And when people ask you, well, what do you think you're going to be, Carolyn? what was your answer to, like in high school when they say, oh, you're going to college soon, so what do you think you're going to do with your life?
Yeah, I think I was always pretty like set and strong that I was going to be an artist. I sort of discovered photography in my junior year, and I grew up going to small parochial Catholic schools. The art program was not phenomenal. It was, you know, I had the same art teacher for 4 years. It was art 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it was okay, but it wasn't anything amazing. And what was sort of interesting was, as a junior, I was taking a physics class, and for the last quarter of the year, we were allowed to do a larger ongoing project, and I chose to do a photography project. And you know, I ended up getting permission to go into the local middle school and get into the darkroom, and I taught myself how to do that. And I also had taken like a small 5-day workshop at the Worcester Art Museum. And between those two things, I just knew that photography was it for me. Like I just felt like photography is my passion. That's what I want to focus on. But I think by my junior and senior year in high school, I was aware of that.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So how would you, let me ask you this, how long have you been painting for?
Really seriously, only since February of this year, of 2012.
Oh,
so it's been less than a year now that I've been seriously painting. And what I mean by seriously painting is like going out, buying, you know, getting these big canvases and actually just focusing on putting acrylic paint onto the canvas. My photography work has a very similar style to my paintings. They're very layered. But I've always started with the photograph before, and then I would either add texture and or different layers digitally in the computer, or I would hand paint on top of them. But I always use the photograph as a starting point. I used to be really nervous about a blank white canvas. Like that, a blank white canvas frightened me.
It's too much pressure.
It was way too much pressure, and I didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
There were too many possibilities for a blank white canvas. But I actually took an online class, my first and only so far online class in painting in February, and that is when I started creating these.
Wow. So all this time it's been really photographs.
Yes.
It's really been photography. So this
That's
is a
right.
recent putting paint on canvas. And what made you decide to choose the actual paints that you use?
Through one of my friends, through the Wellesley Women Artisans, I had expressed a desire to start painting, and she recommended this this particular class that a woman named Flora Bowley was teaching, and so I basically looked at her work, and there was something I think visually that I felt really connected to, and I really liked her work. I thought it was really beautiful. And there was something also very spiritual about it that I really enjoyed. And so I think that I started painting with acrylics mainly because I didn't want to really deal with oil paints in my home. I'm using a spare bedroom in my home. I've got 2 young children. I didn't want the chemicals and the turpentine and the cleanup that oils required.
That's interesting.
And I think that what I learned through Flora Bowley, she also uses acrylics, so I'm using these golden paints, which are really beautiful.
So it's almost like
acrylics.
speaking the same language when you see her works and then you do yours. You have an understanding.
I think so. I think that also I found that with acrylic paints, they dry really quickly, as opposed to oils, which really
Can take months.
Can take months, days and months to dry. There's something really quick about acrylics, and particularly because I really layer my paintings. Each of my paintings is anywhere between, say, 12 and 20, maybe even up to 25 layers of paint. And so to be able to paint a layer and then let that dry quickly and then paint another layer on top of it, I'm able to keep the colors really vibrant. I find if you overwork a painting and the colors start mixing together, you get a lot of grays and browns and things, and the colors aren't as vibrant. So I think that the acrylic paints just lended themselves, that's not the right way to put it, but anyway, the acrylic paints just sort of worked for the look that I wanted.
So this painting back here has had several lives before it. So this is the product of, this is the final 20th version of this particular painting. That's interesting to know.
That's right, yeah. And if you go onto my blog, I actually have a slideshow of one painting and its progress. So it's really interesting, like even for me, just to go back and see, like, wow, I can't even believe, like, from layer 5 to 7 how much it transformed and looks like a completely different painting.
So when you look at that white canvas and before you start doing anything, do you start off with a theme or some kind of image you have in mind for it?
I don't actually. I have a lot of ideas and things that I want to bring into the work in general. And I have a sketchbook, and I write my ideas down, and I always have them sort of floating around in my head. But the particular process that I learned through this class was more of an intuitive style painting. So it comes more just from feeling and emotion, and not as much about trying to figure out what is it all about, what's the concept.
So you don't set a time limit for it, and you don't start off with, I'm going to make a collection based on this.
No.
It's more how you feel.
No, but those themes are coming through, I think. And if you look at all of my paintings that I've done since February, there's definitely a specific style to me that's there, and there are a lot of marks and gestures and patterns and things that keep coming back up. So there is a certain rhythm, there is a certain continuity to the work, but I really am enjoying not having a prescribed, like, this is what I want it to end up looking like. In fact, every time I start to bring it in a particular direction, I try to then almost mix it up and completely change the painting around again. It's kind of like life and surprises, and not trying to figure out what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen next week or next month. So you're just really, you're painting in the moment, like you're living in the moment. That's right. It's a letting go process. I think it complements my yoga practice as well. And it's something that's taken me years and years to get to this point in my life where I just, you know, can be really accepting of life as it unfolds and not trying to fight it so much. Trying to work within it. Would you recommend this online art class to other people? I definitely would. So how would they be able to find it if they were online, they were looking to take the same class that a wonderful painter such as yourself tried? You can look up Flora Bowley. Her name is spelled F-L-O-R-A, last name Bowley, B-O-W-L-E-Y, I believe. And she's also on a website called Do What You Love. And that's where I initially found her. And the Do What You Love website shows a lot. They have a lot of different classes that you can find through there. But I would really highly recommend Flora's class to anybody that is just interested in painting, somebody who's been painting for a long time but wants to loosen up and sort of get out of their head and wants to just sort of just start to create for the beauty, the fun, the enjoyment of the process, rather than starting like feeling like you're stuck and or that you want to bring that painting to a certain place, but it's not working and you can't get it there, and then you put it aside and you don't touch it and you don't look at it. Do you still do photography? Do you still take photographs? I do. As well? And then digitally work those as well? I do. Having young kids and being a mom, I do take a lot of kids, you know, family pictures. But I still do feel that I love to take pictures, and that I think will always stay with me as well. And I do think that a natural extension for me will be to start becoming more of a multimedia artist, where I would incorporate the photographs into the artwork. Yes. Interesting. So when you look at that canvas on any particular day, where do you get your inspiration from? Is it just how you feel in that moment, like you've just finished a yoga class or you've just had coffee with a friend who really irritated you? Certainly those emotions come out, and also I think whatever music I'm listening to can evoke those emotions. But I find inspiration everywhere. I mean, I find inspiration from my travels. I'm really into architecture. Like love architecture. So I find that really influences my paintings. I love the city at night. There's something about the darkness. For some reason, you know, I'm not a morning person. I'm more of an evening, nighttime person. So I love that time. For me, that's like, okay, the day is done. I can just relax. I love like the soft glow of a candle or something like that. I love, there's something, like back to that city at night, the sparkling lights and so dark forms in the background, and you have these bright lights sort of overlaid on top of it. Yeah, that's right. I love texture. Which is also reflective in your artwork of layering. Definitely. So I love like seeing an old piece of furniture with like the paint sort of chipping and crackling off of it, and being able to see another layer behind it. I love getting like beneath the surface of something, whether it's visually aesthetically or whether it's, you know, on a more spiritual level. But I like sort of digging deeper. Right. There's those sort of allegorical themes where there's sort of a sense of more than what you see on the surface, and also a sense of renewal. And all those kinds of metaphors that can be read into that. Yeah, definitely. I also really love patterns. So I could draw inspiration from just looking at like a notebook that has a really cool cover
yeah.
to it, you know. I mean, whether it's like a chevron pattern or something, you know, usually I love anything that's like Moroccan or Indian, like those types of motifs.
Yes, the really big questions, the really important questions that I'm sure every one of our viewers is dying to know. So where do you find and how do you find the time to do this with 2 small children?
Again, it goes back to that inspiration that I've gained from my artist group here in town. I think that they helped me to understand that if I can even just carve out that hour a day, that it can be enough. You know, those hours all add up. And so typically what I do is I put my boys down to bed at 7:30, and then I get right into my studio and paint. And so that's usually my time. I think that as my boys get older and they're in school more, I'm hoping that I'll have some more hours during the daytime as well.
Right, and how old are the kids right now?
3 and 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are active ages.
They sure are.
So Carolyn, I know you have an online presence.
Yeah.
And how do you market and sell your artwork?
I have an Etsy shop, so I sell my work through there. In the past, I have had gallery representation. I don't currently. I feel like I'm still building up this new body of work and also being a painter. And so I recently did an event at Yoga Spot in Wellesley where I practiced yoga. It was a one-night event, and so I'm trying to get the work out there.
What advice would you give aspiring artists, or say high school students, who are thinking about majoring in art or having a career in art?
Wow, that's a really good question. You know, I think that the most important thing is staying true to yourself. I think that as a student, being really open and just exploring all types of media, just trying out anything and being open during, especially as a student. I think that's what the purpose is of being in school, is just to learn as much as you can. But at the end of the day, I think you really need to, or the best artists are really being true to themselves, because I think at the, you know, people really want to see something that's unique. People want to be able to say, oh yeah, I totally see you in that, Carolyn. I totally see you in that work. And that, I've never seen anything quite like that before, you know. So I think just developing your own style, your own voice, figuring out what's really important to you, figuring out who you are as a person so that you can bring that into your artwork.
Do you think that there's a resurgence in the art scene in America? Do you think that if someone wanted to go into art and have a career as a full-time artist, do you think there's a big push for that right now?
I don't know that there's necessarily a push for that right now. I feel like the arts are always very important. I think that, you know, I think it's a tough career. It's really tough to make a full-time living off of it, to be honest. It's something that I think a lot of people do as hobbies, and that I think it's similar to sort of becoming a famous actor or rock star. To become a really famous person in the art world is, you know, to gain that sort of celebrity status and or to gain at least just enough money to be able to live, you know, a decent life is. There are very few people who sort of make it in that realm.
And where do you think the trends are going right now in the art world? Do you think people favor more abstracts, or they favor more of the old style type of paintings? Where do you see the trends going?
You know, I think that everybody's so unique and individual in their taste, and I think there's always a place for classic art. I think there's always a place for contemporary art and pushing the boundaries and doing something new and avant-garde, and I think that it's important to have both. I mean, even amongst, like, you know, my influences, you know, I can, you know, I really look back to like the Hungarian photographers, André Cortez and Versailles. You know, they were shooting in Paris. There are lots of those night scenes, like just these beautiful black and white photographs with just the you know, the street lamp or in a silhouette, and there's something really moody and dark and cool and edgy about those works that were, you know, done in the early 1900s. Or, you know, with Andre Cortez, he has these really great photographs that were taken like an aerial view, most likely from like a really high skyscraper or something, and looking down, and you'll just see like footprints in the snow, and they're just beautifully composed. And I think that they're just they're those types of works that are classic, that'll always look cool, that are always compel people.
So quickly, before we have to wrap up, tell us about the charity stuff that you do related to your art, and also what's going on in this painting back here. I've been looking at this the whole time. Very curious to see what's going on in here.
Thank you, Rama. So yeah, I always feel like it's important to give back, and so right now I have a promotion going on that, and 10% of anything that is sold will go to Birthday Wishes. It's an organization that's based in Newton, and it gives money back to homeless children so that they can have birthday parties. And I'm doing that in honor of my father, who recently passed. He had a very short battle with leukemia and passed away in August. So, and my dad was just one of the most generous people I know, and so I'd like to give back with that. As far as this piece goes, it's called The Search for Glory.
That's an interesting title.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that, you know, here, you know, you can see a lot of what we've talked about.
That's right.
I think you can see some of the Moroccan pattern influences here. You see a lot of that, like, for me, like that urban city at night with the glowing lights and that sort of thing.
A lot of layering and
a lot of
architectural
layering.
influences as well.
And for me, I think my work is about journeys and about adventure, and it comes from a really positive place. But it's about, you know, I mean, in 2001 I traveled around the South Pacific for 3 months. I love to travel, and so but it's also about like me connecting with my father who's passed, and curious about that journey that he's on right now, and where his spirit is, and what he's doing, and how he's transitioning into that realm, and how I can still have a connection with him. I do believe that there is something beyond this life here, and so in some ways I think that this most recent work is sort of me trying to find a connection to him and that afterworld. But I do believe that it's, you know, it's a happy, joyous place. And again, it like goes back to even my travels here on Earth, and just my journey as a human being, my progression as a person.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. That's very interesting. It really comes from a place of depth and a place of passion for you.
It does, yeah. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you.
Again, your site is Carolyn Mackin Watson. No,
CarolynMackin.com. That's
Perfect.
right.
So everyone will know where to go to find your amazing works.
Thank you, Rama.
Thank you.